This is the Dental Up Podcast, your daily source for insights from dentists and leaders in the industry. Brought to you by Keating Dental Lab, a full-service, award-winning dental lab that is here to add value to your dental practice. With high-quality restorations, friendly, reliable service, the best products and prices, come experience the Keating difference. Visit KeatingDentalLab.com for details.
Good morning and welcome back to the Dental Lab Podcast. I'm Bob Brandon, your host and general manager here at Keating Dental Lab. A happy belated Mother's Day to all your wonderful moms out there, and thank you for listening. I do hope your children and husbands took care of you yesterday. And what a Mother's Day weekend it was. An 80-1 long shot won the Kentucky Derby. I know there were some people who cashed in on Rich Strike. I wasn't one of them, but oh well, nicely done. And to come back from that far at the start of the race and win it, wow. And the Strikers FC boys won 2 more games this weekend, 4-1 and 1-0 to up their season record to 28 wins, 2 losses, and 2 ties, and with only 2 more matches to play. Work hard, go get 2 more W's, boys, to close out the season. So I was at the Fabulous Forum this weekend, and what history that building has. I first started going there as a kid back in the 80s, watching those great Laker teams of Kareem, Magic, James Worthy, Byron Scott, Michael Cooper, Kurt Rambis, and the rest of the guys battle the Celtics in those truly epic games and final series. Well, the Forum was rocking again this past weekend with Eddie Vedder, Mike McCready, Matt Cameron, Jeff Ament, and Stone Gossard. Pearl Jam played 2 sold-out shows, and I finally got to use my tickets from 2020. Definitely worth the wait. And if you get the chance, go check them out this year on their Gigaton tour. So today, we're going the nostalgia route again with a dentist that had over 40 years at the chair. He's going to share his experience, wisdom, and advice with us. He's famous in South Florida for his generosity and kindness, in addition to his world-class technique. In fact, when he was in dental school, he was the first student in the state of Florida to do a clinical procedure on a live patient. And that moment is captured in a photograph that will appear in the write-up to this episode. So make sure to check it out. Please welcome to the Dental Up Podcast, Dr. Alan Kaplan. Good afternoon, Dr. Kaplan. Thanks for joining us today on the Dental Up Podcast.
My pleasure.
So you and your wife, Barbara, are all the way out from Florida, and you're here visiting in Southern California. What brings you guys out here?
Well, we're retired. We come out here almost once a year, play golf, and enjoy the Southern California weather.
See, kids, there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely, and you should be looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Well, I'm so glad you guys came out. It was so nice to connect again. And again, thank you so much for your time and being our guest today on the Dental Up Podcast. So let's get to it a little bit. We were talking before we went on the air about your dental school experience. So tell us where you went to school, when you graduated, and some of the cool stories that you were sharing down in our operatory.
Well, I graduated from the University of Florida College of Dentistry in 1976. It happened to be the first class out of the college in the history of the state of Florida. And interesting enough, the state legislature mandated that the school be formed in early 50s.
Oh, wow.
So you can do the math. So yes, I was in the first class, and it was a very small class. It started out with 24. One unfortunately dropped out. He decided dentistry wasn't for him. So we had a very, very, very close relationship with our faculty. So I think we have a picture of me doing the first amalgam restoration on a patient.
That's awesome. You shared that photo with me. So yeah, you were the first student in the state of Florida to do a live patient procedure.
Yes, and it was number 31. It was an occlusal amalgam under rubber dam, and it must have taken me 3 hours.
That's fantastic. Well, and it's historic too. So
it was historic, and yes, it was nobody else in the clinic at that time, and somehow I got ready to do it before my other classmates.
I love it. That's great. Well, you're a true pioneer, Dr. Kaplan, and
sure.
It's not just a story. That's a true story, and I'm so happy you shared that photo with me. Okay, so you graduate in 1976, and what was the job market like? What did you do right out of school? Tell us about your first job.
Well, I was very fortunate to have my uncle was a prosthodontist in Miami Beach. He had a national reputation, so he kind of guided me along the way. So my first position was a I was a dental resident in a general practice dental residency at Mount Sinai Medical Center of Greater Miami. And I was there for a year. Lots of different things went on in that year. We did anesthesia. I did ER medicine. And I did 8 weeks at an oral surgery specialty program at Jackson Memorial Hospital.
Oh, wow.
And the rest of the time we were in the dental clinic. So after that, my uncle put me together with one of his closest colleagues, who at the time was 82. And he was one of the finest, I would say, gold restoration dentists in the area. And I shared office space with him. The office was, I'd say, 786 square feet, 2 operatories, full laboratory. And I equipped the one operatory, and he had his own operatory. So that went on for almost 5 years.
Wow.
Until he was retiring, and we took over the office, and what little patients of his were left, which about 100. And it was a good 5 years for me. And then I was on my own. And several years later, I moved across the street. I was on one of the main streets in Miami Beach, and opened up a 1,500 square foot office.
Wow. That's wonderful, and a great journey. And I can tell, I mean, your background with the gold and, very mechanical preparation style, extremely retentive. I mean, how many crowns have we made for you over the past 20 years that have ever come off? I'd have to say I'll let you answer.
Well, to be honest with you, it's been more than 20 years with Sean when he was at Glidewell. Right. And I can't remember. No, I don't think we had any retentive problems with your work. Maybe the shade was off every now and then, but that's about it.
Yeah. Porcelain's porcelain. But I mean, the fit, and it goes back to the principles and the way you were trained and your background. The fits are better if you have very good mechanical, retentive preparations, which, yeah, I mean, your preps, after looking at them for 20 years, your preps were textbook.
Well, thank you. They tried hard. I like doing it. It was my favorite thing to do. So enamelplasty.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about now. So you retired. When did you sell your office, and what were the kind of steps that you had to go through to transition?
Well, to be honest with you, it was purely financial. No, health-wise too. I have a very colorful medical history over the last, I'd say, 5 years, which I don't nearly need to get into, Nope. But it was a factor. Nothing awful, but very strange. And so my lease was up. I was in a Class A building in the most expensive street on Miami Beach, and I really didn't want to do another 5 years. I was already 70 at the time, or 69. So I went to a state dental meeting, found a broker who I had known anyway, and we put the practice up for sale in late or mid 19. So fast forward to before COVID, we had a buyer, but COVID hit and he kind of disappeared. And we had to close the office for like 12 weeks and then reopened with all the PPE and the gowns and the fog and the glasses. It was just, it was not fun. And finally, this young man came back and we almost had a deal, and he backed out again. So late in November, we called a dental equipment guy, and he said, I got a guy wants to use your equipment or buy him. Turned out he bought the practice. He made a decision when he came with his wife. And 3 weeks later, I was retired.
Wow. Oh, that's that quick. Wow.
Yeah, it was magic. I don't think it happens it was a struggle really from middle of 19 to end of 20.
Well, yeah. When you think about it, I mean, this was still summer and fall of 2020. There was so much, unpredictability with the economy then.
And we had a lot of, we had interest, but nobody really fit. So we kept looking.
Yeah. Well, I congratulate you on the sale. That's fantastic. And it's a testament to your wonderful career as a dentist. I know you have thousands. You're making me blush. Well, you have thousands of patients in our database that I know are tremendously appreciative of your skill and your dedication and your ability to make the treatment personal. I mean, we were talking about this again this morning where, I think that this is a profession where you're literally in somebody's face during the treatments. You have to have that personality to get along and connect with people. And you've always had that. And I think it's something that, the younger generation needs to appreciate that, there's a human being attached to that tooth and they want to be treated like a human being and talked to like a human being instead of.
There's a couple of basic things that I lived by for 45 years. One, when you first meet the patient, or anytime the patient's in your care, you need to make them feel like they're the most important person in the room. Not you, not your dental assistant, not the person that comes tell you there's a phone call. You must make them feel like they're the one that we're paying attention to. And you have to listen, and I mean listen to what the patient wants, needs, and desires, and not kind of put your own agenda in front of the patient. They're the ones that are seeking your care, and you need to be very cognizant of the fact of what they really need. And then it's your job to try to educate them and motivate them to do what's right for them and what's the best course of treatment for them.
I love it. Those are two great pearls. And I think we just found the title of this episode, actually. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you
there
for
you
that.
go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So tell us, so you're educating the next generation of dentists in this country. Tell us about that. Tell us the organization and how the students come to you guys.
Well, before I get to that point, let me just give everybody a clue. I want you fellas and gals who's ever listening to, make sure your posture is right. Make sure you do everything to keep your body okay, because I spent a year getting both my knees replaced. So after those were done, I was free to do what I'm doing now. I'm a faculty at the Florida Institute for Advanced Dental Education, which is basically a 2-year residency for internationally trained dentists. And these people are not young. I mean, we have residents that graduated in 1998 all the way up to maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And for them to go through the hoops that they need to go through to become dentists in this country or the state of Florida is pretty admirable that they can do it. So, we've got 2 endodontists who are specialists. We have an oral surgeon who's a specialist and an orthodontist. And they come from all over the world. So we have a young woman from Israel, a young woman from Iraq, believe it or not, a lot from Cuba, and several from Brazil and from Argentina.
I love it. The American dream is alive and well.
And you got to work hard, but they're almost finished. I think there's 10 of them, which is great.
That's fantastic.
Mostly women, believe it or not.
Oh, that's great. I mean,
perfect.
And, the land of opportunity, that's what this country is. And I love the fact that, people are coming here and they're obviously willing to work hard. It's not a cheap venture by any means. I mean, what's the price tag on
the
this?
tuition for the residency is about $62,000 a year.
Yeah.
Plus living expenses, of course. And to show you what one resident gave up, she's from Brazil. She's a periodontist. She had 4 offices in Brazil, in São Paulo. And not only that, she had to drive around in an armored car, and she had to have a bodyguard. So you can imagine what it took to run 4 offices. And I'm very successful, I'm sure, but she gave it all up and came to this country.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of sacrifice. There's a lot of personal sacrifice. I know everybody that comes to this country is giving up something, and they're leaving something behind in search of, a better life and more opportunity. And these students that come to you, for your skill, expertise, and knowledge, I mean, they're real people, and they're giving up, their life to aim for a better life here in America. And we should be there to support them. And I'm so thankful there's dentists like you out there that can give them the time, the knowledge, and your experience so that they can become successful here in the United States.
Well, let me tell you something. It's 2 days a week, full days, and my wife is ecstatic that I'm out of the house, and I really look forward to seeing these younger people. They're not so young, and the fact that I drive 2 hours to get to and from is not a problem. I'm very pleased to do it. And just a footnote, that my first partner of 82 was one of the original founders of this clinic. At those days, it was called the Dade County Dental Research Clinic, where dentists came to teach other dentists, and dentists that were being taught would spend the day treating patients that were in need of dental care, and they couldn't afford it elsewhere. So it's been a great experience, and I'm very happy to be able to do so.
Oh, that's awesome. You get to understand, I'm sure, their training in their own individual countries a little bit. What are some of the countries out there that are producing high-level dentists, would you say?
Well, I would say that from what I've seen, I would say Brazil, Argentina, of course, Israel, and the gal from Iraq is very well trained, and I'm sure some of the older Cuban dentists who were trained in Cuba were very good. Now, doesn't mean we get all these wonderful dentists from out of the country applying, but the ones, it's a selective process, so they have to do clinical, on ivory teeth to get checked out before they're accepted.
Good. Well, and I mean, that's, you're preparing them to pass the board exam here in the United States and the state of Florida. So, I mean, they have to become very proficient and
Right.
highly skilled. So,
well, the interesting part of Florida, for those who are listening, we just eliminated treating live people. And now the boards are going to be on models. And so there's no procuring of patients to do whatever exams and teaching and clinical procedures on live human beings. So that's a good note for anybody interested in coming to Florida. But no, we even had the opportunity to test the residents and take the Florida board in our clinic. It was very fortunate. One of our professors or faculty is very, very well connected to the state and arranged it. So it's overall a very good experience in the clinic.
Awesome. And what's the percentage of the students that pass and obtain their license?
100% this year. Yep.
That's great. That's a testament to you guys as the instructors as well. That's fantastic. That's a great story. And I'm sure there's others throughout the country. Do you know of institutions like yours that are in other states?
Well, I know for sure that there are many associated with the universities, colleges of dentistry. I mean, University of Florida has a clinic in Miami for general practice for foreign trained students. And I think they're all over the country. I know there's a program at NYU, just off my cuff, but there's got to be a lot to choose from.
Right. And now that you're retired and, maybe a little bit more unbiased, let me ask you a personal question.
Sure.
Do you think there's a shortage of dentists here in the United States?
Well, I think the shortage is of patients that can afford to pay for dental care. That's what the shortage is.
True.
I mean, if you really want to know my liberal opinion, there are a lot of people that come in this clinic that have been just, they haven't had the opportunity and a lot of dental disease. And it's sad to see, the government, not that I'm touting Medicare for dental patients, but, if you're sick and you're poor, you can go to hospital and get taken care of. But that's really what I see a shortage. I don't think there's a shortage of dentists. I think it's just, what's the word I want to use? The shortage would be care for the poor.
Yeah,
and the underprivileged.
The shortage is dentists who are willing to provide services for the underserved communities.
In our state, sadly, Medicaid payment to dentists is terrible. I mean, it costs more to treat the patient than it is to get paid by the state for Medicaid. So
yeah.
That's a whole.
Yeah, we had a dentist here in California that basically said the same thing. He said it costs more to clean the room and pay the person to clean the room that their reimbursement is.
Absolutely. So
yeah,
I can't speak to the shortage of dentists. I don't think so. There's new dental schools popping up everywhere. We have three in the state of Florida. And when I started, there was no dental school in 1971. So evidently people think there's a need for dentists and training dentists.
Yep. Well, so going back to your relationship with Keating, and you've been with Sean forever, it seems like, and you were our customer for nearly 20 years. What was it like working with Keating Dental Lab we were Keating Dental Arts when you knew us, but what was it like working with us?
I will tell you, in the beginning and along the course of my practice, I had used all the high-end technicians in my area, which they were all very, very good. But it got to the point where I could never get a return date. They had to call me, and some of the fees that they were starting to charge seemed a little bit unreasonable, at least for the patients that I was taking care of. So I started off with Sean at Glidewell, and I would tell anybody who's using Keating that you need to develop a relationship with each one of the guys in Crown and Bridge and Removable, whatever department, and stick with them and call them and talk to them. and let them know what you want, your needs, your desires. And I would say 10 times out of 10, there wasn't a problem with Keating producing what I wanted them to produce.
And again, that's the relationship. And you communicated your expectation to us so that we knew exactly what to produce. I mean, a lot of times when we just get a prescription and an impression and there's, crown number 6, A2. I mean, we're left really to guess. And I'm not saying that, it needs to be a phone call or patient expectations communicated on every single case. But, the way you worked with us was very personal. It was an extremely personal relationship.
Now that you brought that up, the residents have gotten to a habit of writing crown A2, 2, 3, and 4, whatever, no other instructions. So now I'm sitting there and I'm telling you, all right, this is what you have to write down.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, don't be afraid to use the pen on the prescription form. You want a reduction coping, write it down. You want them to adjust the opposing cusp bip, write it down. If you have a combination of shades that you think will work, write it down. And if there's particular interest or problems that you need to talk to, pick up the phone and call.
Yep. That's significant words of advice. And that's so I guess we can skip now. I mean, we're kind of going into the advice for the young dentist, and you just gave it to them right there. So I guess, I mean, how long are you going to be here in California? What's on the rest of your agenda?
Well, before I continue, I would give the young dentist 2 words in Spanish. If I pronounce it wrong, you fellas and gals, tell me. You need 2 words, fe y paciencia. That means faith and patience with the growth of your practice. And don't find yourself in a situation where you're forced to do work you don't think is appropriate. And don't charge fees that you don't think is appropriate either if it doesn't fit for the way you want to practice. And so for the rest of the stay, I think we're going to take a drive to LA. I'd like to go to the Griffin Observatory, maybe see the Walt Disney Theater, just be a tourist.
Cool. Well,
and play some golf.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of good courses up there too. But yeah, Griffith Observatory is amazing. We haven't had, too much wind or rain here, but yeah, you can get above the city and see everything. Another great thing, I don't know if you've ever been, is the Getty Museum.
Yes,
is
magnificent.
Is phenomenal. Yeah.
Yes, it's the fact that you get an underground train from the parking lot to the museum is like, oh, really?
And parking's free. Parking is still free.
And only in Southern California. What can I tell you?
Yep. Very cool. Well, Dr. Kaplan, thank you so much for your time. You've always been generous to us, and I sincerely appreciate every opportunity we get to connect again. And I wish you all the best in your retirement, semi-retirement, actually, now that you're teaching again. And I wish you and Barbara, your wife, all the best for the rest of your trip out here in California.
I appreciate the kind words, and we'll always come visit when we're out here.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Dental Up podcast, your daily source for insights from dentists and leaders in the industry. This episode is sponsored by Keating Dental Lab, here to add value to your dental practice. With high-quality restorations, friendly, reliable service, the best products and prices, come experience the Keating difference. Visit KeatingDentalLab.com for details.